guys, welcome back. Today I got a little bit of a different video for you. We're going to be doing a mod overview or a mod Nerf Rapidstrike modification overview. I normally incorporate these into my reviews, but I've been wanting to kind of stray away from that. So I'm doing them as a separate video. And the first thing I want to mention is this is not a mod guide. This is just going over what I've done to this blaster. And the second thing I want to mention is if you are planning on modifying this, great. I'll have some links in the description as well as a couple of comments to different people's videos on how to do it. Coop772 did an amazing job with one of his. The only thing I would add to his video is to be careful when removing the PCB board. I know he talks about removing the resistors and stuff off the motors, and you'll understand what I'm talking about once you go watch his video if you're new to it. But when removing stuff like that, I highly recommend desoldering, not just ripping stuff off, because you can really tear stuff off with pliers and stuff like that. It's what happened to mine, and we'll get into that in a little bit. So that's one thing I did want to mention. When you go watch his review, keep in mind, do everything carefully. Don't rip stuff off like he says. Nothing against him, but he didn't really realize that it could break things, so just be careful when you're doing that. So with that being said, go check out his video. I highly recommend it. He does an amazing job with his tutorials and stuff, and I'll leave that to him. Honestly, I don't plan on doing too many mod guides for mine unless it's something kind of shortly missed. The only thing I'm going to be explaining in this video is a quick tip on how to make your blaster decelerate really fast, and we'll be covering that in a little bit as well. This video is going to be a little bit longer. It's already close to 2 minutes, so I do apologize. This is going to be a pretty long video, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk this through. I'm not going to explain myself as far as in detail for those of you who don't know how to mod. If you've not done any kind of electronic modifications before, I don't recommend trying the Rapidstrike first, okay? Get yourself a Strife, do some basic mods to those, and then go up into this. So with that being said, I'm not going to explain everything as far as how everything works inside. I'm just going to go over what I did. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any internal shots except for 1 or 2 that I'll add in later, but I'm just going to be talking of what I've done. As far as the look goes of the blaster right now, this is not how I'm going to run it, but I thought it looked pretty epic. It looks pretty close to, as close as you're going to get to a sniper rifle feel. Subtract maybe putting a long shot scope on the top instead of a red dot. But other than that, that's just for looks. I personally won't be running this. I'll just be running it in my normal setup. Okay, so let's get started. Modifications I've done to this blaster are pretty standard. I removed the magazine lock, which is located right here in the blaster. Removed that and rewired it to where the connection is continued. I did a little bit of a mod to the lock up here, the jam door lock. I can open the jam door and rev, as you guys can see, but I did not cut it out. I did not desolder it. It's still in there. I super glued it inside the stock area right in here. That way it's out of the way and the button can't get depressed. Pressed. So basically it's never gonna cause it not to rev. It's just in there because I didn't want to take the time or the effort to try to figure out the connections in that area, and I'll explain that once I get the other picture up and stuff. But basically I left it in there. Those are the only 2 locks I really removed. There's nothing else to remove in the blaster itself. Except for one mechanical lock, which is up here, that does not allow you're not allowed to use the pull the trigger or rev it without the magazine being in there. So there's an electronic lock in here and a mechanical lock in here. I did remove those and then relocated the switch. As far as power goes, I removed all the resistors on the motors, and this is when I said to be careful when you're doing it like Coop says, because I ended up breaking the contacts off of my motors, so I didn't have anything to solder to. Ended up putting barricade motors in, and so far they work great. We'll get into that in a little bit, but I did have to replace the motors, which was a big bummer to me. It means another 20 bucks out of my pocket, you know, because I have to scrap a blaster or something like that. So just be careful when you're removing that. Other than that, I did remove the resistor. Obviously that is located on the trigger lock, which I removed the whole entire trigger lock, so that's gone. I did leave the little catch in here, the mechanical portion, just to keep it a little more secure. The clip doesn't wobble or anything like that. I just like to leave those things in there if I can. It's not going to cause any problems, and it actually keeps dust and stuff out of your blaster if that bothers you. The only other thing I did to the circuit itself, as far as removing stuff, is I did remove the little resistor on the trigger board. There's 2 PCB boards in here. One's located up here next to the the firing pin, I'm going to call it the firing pin, dart pusher, there we go, dart pusher, the housing up there for the dart pusher. There's one PCB board like right in this area, then there's one down here. On this one there is a resistor on there that you need to just desolder and put a little wire in between. I'll post up a picture, should be up right about now, explaining what that is. But basically I did remove that and then shorted it out with a little piece of wire that I soldered back into those ports, and that allows me to get full power through the whole entire thing. I'm getting the full voltage of my batteries. As far as additions to the circuits, as well, I'll leave the picture up here, that you can see a green wire that is running from the top left hand corner of the screen, kind of the board there. It's running underneath the black wires, and what that wire does is it goes down to an open port on your rev switch. If you guys don't understand what I'm saying, basically the bottom right, there's a little switch down there with 3 wires running out of it. That green one is not normally there, it's open, there's just a little prong there. What you want to do to wire that together is to solder that one end of the green wire, whatever wire you have, to that switch, and then run it up the same way the cables go up to the top one, and wire it either into the port where the black wires are going into the PCB board, or just wire it to one of the black wires going in. So if you know what I'm saying there, you want to have that going into the black wire before the board itself. So that's what I did there. What that allows you to do is you get this quick deceleration. So if you guys can hear this, it decelerates a lot faster than just letting it rev out. A little example would be in the Stockade. You have all that rev down time. What it does is it just basically, it somehow connects itself. I'm not sure how it works. I've done it in all my Strifes and my Ravens, and it works great, so I just decided to do that. That was a completely lucky guess, guys. I have no idea how that all works. The main thing that I noticed was there was only white wires coming into it, and the black wire was the negative, I think. Positive or negative, one of the two. I was able to figure that out and literally tried it once and it worked, so I left it there and didn't mess with it again. So it works great. As far as the additions go, that's pretty much all I did. The other thing I added to the circuit is in the board up here. I don't know if you guys can see this on the camera. I'm going to go ahead and try focusing my camera in. Apologize for the sound. So if you can see this little button here, that's not normally there. It's just one of the switches, and I did have one sitting around here. Let me see if I can find it. Basically all that is a safety switch off of a barricade, I think. It's also located, oops, sorry, knocking the camera around here. It's also located in several of the other blasters. You can remove it. It's just a safety switch, as you guys can see here. And what that is that's actually hot glued to the dart pusher housing. Once you get inside the blaster, this will make a lot more sense, but it's basically just hot glued in the top there, wired up with some circuits I did, and wired into this. So basically when I push this, you can see I have a voltage meter in there. Now, it looks like it's hard to read on camera. It's not. If you look from the side, I don't know if you guys can see, are going to be able to see this or not. You can actually see the whole thing whenever you're actually looking at it. As you can see, I'm running at 12.1 volts, which is 3 trust fire batteries. But what that does is basically it just allows me to see what my voltage is, and with that being in there, it's a lot easier to tell when my batteries need to be recharged or replaced or whatever, and can tell exactly what it is. For those of you who use trust fires, you know that's a big deal, because you don't want to over or under, I don't know how you'd say that, under discharge your batteries. Once they get below a certain point, they won't recharge. So I added that in. That's all I did as far as the circuits go. Now, as far as batteries and all that stuff goes, we'll go ahead and remove this bipod and get it out of the way. As far as the batteries, again, I am running it on 3 trust fire batteries. Now, I did it a little bit different than most people do it, or at least from what I've seen people do it. A lot of people add in a 9-volt harness, or excuse me, not a 9-volt harness, a 3 or 4 or 6 AA battery harness, however many you feel is necessary. I personally don't like doing that, and the reason for that is because I like to have my blasters be able to run at stock if I want them to. And so if you do that, a lot of times you have to cut the shell and stuff like that, or add a spring so that it doesn't rattle around. And it's just kind of messy and sloppy in my opinion. Again, most people will probably disagree with me, but the reason why for that is because I know in some of my wars I can't, I don't want to necessarily use modify guns against everybody else that's using stock guns. I just don't think that's fair, so I like to have that option. What that allows me to do is then, if I want to, I can stick 4 C batteries in here, or 4 AA's and converters in the blaster itself, if I can ever get this thing out of here. And it just allows me to have that option to run it stock, which is a big plus to me. If I don't have to modify something like this, it's definitely a help. And I don't know why I'm having such a problem getting the battery tray out. Oh, I do know why. The barrel's in the way. Okay. So, go ahead and remove that. So instead of doing that, I use C to AA converters with a little modification. As you guys can see, these are cut off at the end. 2 reasons for that. One, my Trustfire batteries, for some reason, I'll go ahead and show this, maybe, have really small positive contacts. They don't stick through the plastic. Whenever you stick them in the correct way, like if it's going to go in this way, they don't stick out enough to make contact with the other one. So I had to cut it off a little bit on the positive ends for these battery compartments. And the other thing is when I had the 2 plastic pieces in here, they wouldn't fit. There was just a tiny bit of extra room due to the plastic, and they wouldn't actually fit in there. So I had to modify them, just cut the ends off. They still hold the batteries in place, so they're not wobbling around. Well, they are a little bit, but what I'm saying is they're not going to be falling, and they're going to keep in contact with the other batteries. I'm running 3 Trustfire batteries with 1 dummy cell that I created. A little bit of a Frankenstein thing there. So that's what I'm running in here. It's a really easy job. The other thing I did do is I removed the little tabs in the middle. That's the only modification I had to do. But C batteries still work and hold in tight. There's not going to be any problem with them, you know, popping out of place or anything like that. They still work great. So that's what I did with mine. And plus, it gives me the option to run 4 C or run 4 Trustfires. Really bad idea in my opinion, but it does give me that option. And if I can get my Trustfires back in here, we'll go ahead and leave it for now. Yeah. So that's what I did as far as voltage. Upgrades. Nothing else that I can think of that I did to the blaster itself. A lot of people were wondering as far as firing goes, and we'll go ahead and do a firing test here in a second. As far as speeds and stuff, I'm getting great ranges out of the barricade motors. I'm not getting, I don't think, as good ranges as I could be getting with stock Rapidstrike motors, but I am actually a lot more happy with these. Number one being the fact that it gives me a lot more consistent shot, and it could just be my barricade motors. The barricade motors I'm running have been used in a barricade for probably a year or more when I was using that as one of my primaries. So they have seen some use, but honestly, it's getting really great ranges, really great rate of speed as far as flying straight, or excuse me, not speed, accuracy. It's flying really straight and not having any problems with that. It's just giving me a really good shot. I'm really impressed with it. And so I've left those in there. I've gone ahead and installed all those other things, and it's still working 100% fine. So I'm really impressed with it so far. I know I'm rambling a little bit, but like I said, this is going to be a longer video. One thing I did want to show really fast is this is my voltage meter that I actually have inside. I'm going to go ahead and focus the camera again. Maybe. There we go. I picked these up, I think, off eBay for $3, $4 shipped from China. They take like 3 weeks to get here. I have put these in Ravens, Strifes. I'll go ahead and show my Strife really fast. And they work really nice. They don't take any voltage off as far as, power and stuff. They work really good. Again, this is my Strife that have done the same thing too. As you guys see, what's also nice about these is you don't have to cut the shell out. If you're playing in the daytime, it can be a little bit harder to see. You just have to cover it up or whatever, so you can actually see it. But if you're playing indoors or even cloud cover or anything like that, they shine so bright that you can see them through the shell, which makes it so much easier. You don't have to modify the shells, and you can't even tell they're there besides these little tiny buttons. So I really like those. If you're interested in those, I might be able to give you links. I'm not going to share all this info with you. You guys can go find them on eBay. I think they're just called mini voltage meters, I believe is what they're called, something like that. So if you're interested in those, again, you have to figure out how to wire them up because they're not as simple as dropping them in and then working. It does take a little bit of work, but once you figure it out, it's pretty simple. So I think that's it, guys. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the shooting video really fast, and we'll come back with any final conclusions. Okay, guys, we're going to do a quick firing test here. Try this again. I've got a freshly loaded 18 round mag. Apparently, if you let these sit in the clip for like 2 or 3 hours, they don't like to work very well when you've got this kind of modification. So I just freshly loaded it with fresh darts. These are used darts, but they are used darts, excuse me. But we're just going to go ahead and fire them through. We're going to try to get a rate of fire out of this thing, running on 12.1 volts. Oh, sorry, 12 volts. If you guys can see that or not, I don't know. I can. It's 12 volts. So we're just going to go ahead and fire through the 18 round mag on full auto, and then switch over to a 12 round mag and show you guys what kind of fire rate we can get out of it. Yeah, pretty epic. As you guys can see, that was pretty fast. I'll have the totals hopefully once I edit the video. We got a 12 round mag here. We're just going to show you guys that it's still single fires. It's a little bit sensitive, but we'll just go ahead and I'm going to try to show my trigger, or me pulling the trigger on it as well. So here we go. Maybe I can't get it in the shot. Okay, so we'll just try to show it like this. Okay, so single fire is pretty good. Double fire, and we're out. So it works great. I every now and then end up getting a little bit of a double shot like that. It very rarely happens when there's darts in it. You can kind of hear that little hesitation there, or not hesitation, but a double feed. That does, I mean, seriously, when there's darts in it, it slows the arm down a little bit, and I very rarely have that happen, but it is a factor. Other than that, that's pretty much it. We'll switch over back to the video and conclude this video, or conclude the overview. Okay, so as you guys seen there, the shooting is amazing for me. What it does is allows you to spray a ton of ammo if you need to, but yet you still have that option for single fire. Now this is, I seriously wish it was a tiny bit slower, and this is coming into play where I wish I would have left my resistor in the, or at least one resistor in there to see if this would help. And the reason why is because I'm getting that whole one fire or one dart pull is very hard to achieve. When I say hard, it's not like unachievable, but if you're not paying attention, if you're in the heat of a battle and you want to just fire one shot, you every now and then have that risk of running two shots through. Not too big of a deal. I mean, 2 shots down range is always better than 1, but I do like to have control of it, and every now and then I'll find I just hold it for a split second too long and I end up firing 2 darts. That can get a little annoying. Other than that, I have no complaints whatsoever with this thing. It's super fun to use. Again, you can take those long shots if you need them, or you can just spray people, and you're still getting consistent ranges. These motors, what's interesting about these motors is when you actually fire them through the what I want to say. Yeah, I can't even think. The motors themselves actually speed up once you start firing, which is kind of weird. But I like how it does it, because then it allows you to keep that constant range, and you can just, just lay open fire down range so easily. I can't say enough about this. I am super pumped for this blaster. The Strife was really cool to me. This one's just on a whole nother level. Not just because it's fully auto, because honestly I never really used the fully auto function on it. I like to single fire my blasters, but the fact of just the ease of use, the awesome feel to it. It feels good, it feels solid. You don't have to add attachments. It's got everything you could want. Honestly, I don't run the suppressor on it either. I just personally don't like it. Mostly my setup includes a foregrip and yeah, removing that, and a red dot, or pinpoint, excuse me. It's just, I don't know, I just love the thing so much. I'm going to be doing some wars here, hopefully, with a little bit more in-depth. I've done a couple of indoor ones, but I really cannot wait to get this thing out there. I highly recommend modifying it if you guys want to. However, I don't recommend modifying unless you know what you're doing. I spent 8 hours on this thing, okay? Now that's trial and error, because I did have to open it up again and put new motors in it, but I spent a total of like 8 hours on this thing. But it was definitely worth it. And for me, I've had a lot of experience doing barricades, strikes, ravens, pretty much any electronic blaster that's come out I've done before. This one was on a whole other level, and definitely took some time, definitely took some patience. You definitely need to know how to use a soldering iron, because it's just necessary. So I would seriously recommend this only for intermediate to advanced, with an emphasis on advanced, because you need to know what you're doing. Otherwise you can mess it up, and you do not want to mess one of these things up. It's 40 bucks straight out. If you break a motor, that's another 20 bucks to go buy replacements. It's just, you just need to know what you're doing with it. So I highly recommend it. However, I don't recommend it for anybody that's never modded before. I don't recommend it for anybody that's not had at least 2 or 3 electronic blasters they've done in the past and have kind of gotten used to it to know how it works. I think that covers it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be doing an actual review on this blaster as far as in its stock form later on. However, in my personal opinion, you cannot get better than this. Nerf seriously outdone themselves. I just wish they would come out with a few more different shells or something like that to just kind of highlight this blaster, you know, come out with something a little more, you know, just a completely different look to it. Other than that, you can't beat it, especially once you get to modifying it. One thing I do want to mention, don't run it over 3 trust fires. I found 4 is very, very risky. Too high a rate of fire, honestly, you'll just have jams and stuff. 3 is pushing the limit. I just wanted to add that in there for those of you who wanted to know. So thank you guys for watching. Check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/nerftome2. I know I say it all the time, but please do like it. I'd much rather post this kind of stuff on there than have to do a video for it. However, a lot of people over at Nerf Modders Welcome on Facebook wanted to see this. Hopefully I didn't bore you guys. I know it's a really long video. I think it's going to be like 25 minutes or something like that. But I just really wanted to cover it in detail and kind of show you guys. I apologize I don't have internal shots. I just don't want to take it apart again. I'm sorry, that's just me. Once I get something working great, I don't want to mess with it again. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a nice day.